Hello, I am Jonathan Tippett, and welcome to After LUTV News, where we will discuss interesting topics on campus, in the community, and in the world of culture with our panel of University Press, LUTV news reporters, and our special guest, Dr. Natalie Tindall, Chair of the Department of Communication and Media at Lamar University. In the midst of a global pandemic, the death of George Floyd during an arrest by Minneapolis police has changed discussions, rules, and the landscape of the United States. Protests and rioting across the nation have forced many people in government on the local, state, and federal levels to reevaluate policing and systematic racism. In Southeast Texas, protests have occurred from Beaumont to Port Arthur to Vidor. Panel. In a world where NASCAR has banned the Confederate flag, colleges and universities are figuring out how to resume classes in the summer and fall due to COVID-19, and unemployment is at an all-time high. How are you feeling right now about this new normal life and wherever our future is going?
I would like to say that everything just feels in disarray right now. But I believe the sadness about the situation is that I feel this has been a reality that we've been faced with the whole time. But things like sports and school and our jobs and everything, it takes us away from these realities, and we have to face them at this moment. This country is in a horrible spot and has been for a while. And now I believe people are really starting to understand the severity of the situation that's been going on with all the police murders, police brutality against people of color.
Right. I think that right now is the time that a lot of people, I mean, for lack of a better saying, have time to maybe look at things more in detail than they had before, because before they could distract themselves with sports, like Derek said, and other things. And now people are taking a hard look at the reality of the situation and hopefully educating themselves about things that people of color have been experiencing this whole time. So I think it's just a real time for reckoning for a lot of different people.
I agree. I also had time to sit and think about the title New Normal, which I don't see fit with this time, because when you think of normal, you think of like a steady, like repetitive kind of pace that everyone is used to. But right now, the world is changing so quickly with digitalization and globalization and everything happening, new things being unveiled every day, that I think we're moving too fast to get used to it. So I don't think new normal is even a term we should be using or should be concerned about for a while. I think we need to keep ourselves educated in what's happening, be part of the change, and continue to move forward before we can think about resuming to normal.
I'm exhausted. And I think that's the one word I've used every single day this week when anybody's asked me, or last week too. How things came about so quickly was like one thing after another thing after another thing, and you really haven't had time to really just have a chance to really understand the impact of all these things together. I will not be surprised if many of us, especially those of us of color who have watched people die literally every single day via social media, it will be a wonder if most of the country doesn't walk away with some type of PTSD. It's going to be overwhelming once all this gets back to whatever quote unquote normal is. Like Vanessa said, it's not going to be a new normal, whatever we get back to everything coming back into play, sports, school, life, and whatever, it's going to be an adjustment because we've come out of so much tumult. I'm exhausted.
I think that Olivia makes a very good point in that right now we have this perfect storm of people are already at home and restricted because of COVID-19. There has been, right now, which you want to talk about abnormal, right now we have a group of people in Washington who are in an autonomous zone of existence where they have made a little community for themselves. That's crazy. And no one would have imagined anything like that even a month ago, even with all this stuff going on. And a lot of people from there have said that kind of same sentiment. It's that because of the circumstances that are going on, it's just continued to be like a perfect storm within a perfect storm that have caused all these things to happen. I want to talk about this. You've released some statements via the Department of Communication and some personal statements, Dr. Tindall. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. The statement from the Department of Communication really comes from a place of, I am the first Black faculty member really in the department and a tenured position. I also have a duty to my students as the chair of the department to really think about what should we be doing and what do they need going into journalistic careers, going into broadcasting, going into film. We have never truly desegregated newsrooms. We've never really truly desegregated film industry or any of the industries that we're in, PR included, my own industry. So what are the things our students of color need to have to support them? And also what are the things that all of our students need in order to participate in this diverse, multicultural, eclectic society that we live, global society that we live in. And I think it's necessary that departments have statements like this and that chairs who have the power and also who have the position and can the authority to do this, make sure that students know, faculty know, that some things will not be tolerated and some things we need to have embedded in our classes, embedded in the structure of the department. So we're thinking about equity, not just equality, but equity for all of our students and making sure all of them get what they need to be as successful as they need. That's where I'm coming from. It's an ethic of care. It's a standpoint I've always had. If you have power, you need to make it better for someone else. If you have privilege, you make it better for someone else. So I want to be a co-conspirator in my student success. And so these are the things that we need to do. Also, I'm tired of people talking. I am tired of hollow statements. I am tired of being told, we're a diverse campus. We've already done this. We do this, we do that. What are we actually doing to move these measures forward? And how exactly are we showing that to people? One of the biggest things in my statement was I want people to hold me accountable because that's what matters. I can give all the statements I want, but if I'm not putting numbers and percentages and actually actions behind those statements, what's the point? So that's where I stand. I like to see action. I like to see strategy. I like to see stuff accomplished. And also I'm not about BS. I'm sorry, am I allowed to say that on after?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. So I don't want to be known as a person who's just going to spout these great lines. I want to be known as a person of action. I want the department to be known as a place of action. So I think that's valuable. I think that's important.
And I think it's really important to note that that's, I think, what a lot of people are feeling right now. People want to see results. They want to see action. I mean, I'm right there with Dr. Tindall in the terms of we've all heard, oh, we love diversity. We're so diverse. It's like, okay, but where is that breakdown? Because the campus is diverse. Is our faculty diverse? Is our administration diverse? When does that change come in? Because you can have a diverse campus, but if you don't have a diverse faculty or a diverse administration, how are those diverse students' needs being met? How are their interests being represented, their needs being represented? And the truth is that they're not. And so I think that's where especially our campus can step in and say, hey, this is what we're going to do going forward to ensure that our students' success, all of our students' success, is at the forefront of our minds and our mission going forward as a campus. And so I think that's, not just in schools, but I think in a lot of different industries all across the country right now, people are like, okay, it's time for you to raise the blinds and show us what you're actually doing instead of just saying you're doing something.
And I agree with all of this. You need action all the way across the board. At the beginning of the fall semester, we were dealing with a racially insensitive tweet from someone at the university. There was an SGA meeting. We had talks. This was covered. It was all over the internet. And yes, the excuse was brought up that the tweet was old. But at times like this, what is exactly going to prevent things like this from happening again? We're in a climate where things are very heightened right now and very sensitive. People are hurting. You can put out a statement, but was any action taken? You made in the speech that you gave or the paper about having a climate or a area where we can talk about these things so people can understand what plan is going to be put in action. As a minority at Lamar University, you can say that we're racially inclusive and that we're very diverse, but is it really like that if I don't feel that way? You can say you love someone, but unless you put in the actions and show it, it's not going to be reciprocated, and it's not true. It's just a false narrative.
And also, I think that it's important to, ask our minority students, do they feel included? Because I feel like it's always white people who are saying, yes, we're inclusive, we're diverse. But if our students who are minorities don't feel that way, then that's not true. And sometimes I feel like they're not even being asked, they're not even being considered in that question.
Do you guys think that, well, first of all, I wanted to include the number. The number you included with one of your statements was that the faculty staff, the Black faculty to Black student ratio was 69-1. So that shows the disparity a little more clearly when you get a hard number attached to it. But do you guys think that people who are in positions of like power, who are kind of comfortable, do you think that they're only going to respond whenever they're kind of afraid?
Yes, I do believe that. Sadly, even with the riots going on, we might not necessarily agree with it, but why does something have to be taken to the extreme for things to get done? Now, I'm not asking people to go knock on administrators' doors and wreak havoc, but unless it seems like you're angry, things do not get done, unless you step on someone's toes, and that's a shame for it to happen that way.
Right. People don't actively choose to do something until they're forced to a lot of times. And so it takes, it does take kind of knocking on someone's door in order to get a response. Otherwise, they're never going to say anything. And, I think it's time we get actual answers, actual proof, actual actions,
I agree. I think also a lot of the times people in power love to just stay complacent and not do anything unless they're being forced to or being forced to be held accountable to their actions. And so I think right now with the protests going on, a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize that things need to be changed.
I think it's hard for a lot of people to be proactive and to think about these situations because there's so many things going on and they're trying to put out so many fires and prevent so many things from happening. They don't think about these things until it comes to a head. So one thing I believe as someone who's in administration or has seen other sides of administration is the more buffers you can put in place, the more people that you talk to and you include in your circle, the more you get a better understanding of what is happening, what's happening on the ground, what are students thinking, what are faculty and staff feeling. And I sometimes at many universities, you don't have that from people in certain levels. They just don't have that ability to see or be proactive because they don't know what's happening beneath where they are stationed.
Right.
We're almost out of time here, but I did want to touch on one other subject before we head out. How do you guys feel about, well, for Derek, it'll be going out into this job market right now. And for the rest of us, it's how do we feel about returning to classes right now? Because we're in a situation where coronavirus never went away. These protests are happening and they're perfectly valid and they kind of need to be happening. But at the same time, that's a lot of people in close proximity. States are reopening before we really have confirmation that it's a good time to reopen. How are we feeling about getting back out there in the general public right now?
For me, I'm thinking, I'm just not making any solid plans because it's all still up in the air. I mean, every single day we're getting alerts that even in Texas and Jefferson County, in this area, there's like, today's a record high for cases. Today's a record high for cases. Today's a record high for cases. So the thing is that it's not just going to stop. It's not just going to say, oh, school's starting, coronavirus is over, let's go. I'm not actually going to say that we will be meeting face to face until the first day I enter a classroom, because who knows until then? Who knows if that's going to be our reality or not?
After graduation, the main thing college students want to do is look for a job. And you mentioned getting into the real world. And I hate to kind of spin it like this, but right now, constantly in my mind is that I realized that George Floyd died over $20 and Eric Garner died over $13, which is a pack of cigarettes in New York. thinking that $33 amounted to 2 human lives being spilled, guys that look just like me. It's tough rationalizing going into the real world and looking for a job and having to think about my life possibly being taken away from me every moment.
Vanessa, any thoughts?
Right now it's just a very confusing time. You know, you see there's so many things happening on the news, schools possibly opening back up. We're not really sure how that's going to go. And it's just very overwhelming time period. And I don't know, I haven't had time to even think about school reopening or what that future holds for me. I'm just so involved in what's happening today. I don't have time to look at tomorrow. So that's just where I am right now. It's just trying to take in everything that's happening at the moment.
Taking it one step at a time.
And for the department, what we're doing, most of our classes will be hybrid because we don't know what the semester has in store for us. We are trying to put in protocols in our department internally with hand washing, Lysol, all that type of stuff, hand sanitizer. But I think it's just the fact that no one wants to admit that no one knows what's going to happen is the problem. It's just sort of like if you have no one knows what's going to happen, so it's hard to pin down an answer. And I think people just want to know that no one knows right now, but we're doing our best to try and figure things out. That type of information is important. But I will say we're all worried about it. In the department, we're concerned. So we understand where you all are coming from, and we're trying to mitigate as much as possible and make the semester valuable for everybody, regardless of whether we're in person in a hybrid situation or completely online. We're trying to do our best.
And the best is all anyone can do right now. So thank you, panel. And thank you for watching After LUTV News. To see more content from LUTV News, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. See you next time.